Now let's get some political reaction to this story. Why has harassment and bullying persisted for so long in the RCMP? What steps should the government take now to stop the bad behavior? Joining me now, Michel Picard. He's the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Hi.
Aaron O'Toole, Conservative public safety critic, and Murray Rankin, Justice critic. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Exactly what type of action is the government looking for?
Well, first of all, we convey our outrage to the Commissioner about this unacceptable behavior. So the first request to our RCMP is to provide us with a complete and transparent investigation on the event, about what happened, and make sure that they provide us with a more than proper action plan, something robust action plan to prevent this kind of behavior. And of course, in the meantime, we have to support the victim of all this, knowing that at this moment we still have some people who would like to come forward, and we have to, of course, be careful of their privacy.
Were you surprised when you saw this story?
It's not surprised, it's disappointed that it's still going on. It's not the first one. We would like all that it would be the last one, but let's be realistic. And so we have to take all the proper measure to avoid that.
What are the proper measures?
Well, among other things, I think education, better control measures, better, we have to send a message so strong to our professionals, that's what they are, in order to explain to them, you are a professional 24/7. Behave as such. Otherwise, like the two members in this case, they have been suspended.
This is the RCMP. You still think you have to send a message saying to them, be professional?
This type of message has to go on the market at RCMP and any other agencies where this type of behavior is happening.
Mr. O'Toole, I want to bring you in here. What would you like to see done?
Well, listen, we started working with Commissioner Paulson when we were in government on these issues because it's important. There should be a workplace absolutely free of harassment and inclusive, and that's more effective for public safety and security. So the RCMP has been looking at it. That's why I was very disappointed by this story. And I'd like to see the Minister and the government move from the RCMP looking at this to having a firm timeline of some solutions and some concrete steps. You know, the story had a disturbing part where an investigator asked to look at it had issues himself from what the story said. So easily they could come out with a program that any internal examination of issues should be done by someone with a totally clear and stellar record, and some time frames for when feedback is coming back, so that it's easy for us to all agree that no one wants to see conduct like this on any side, but let's have timelines to meet the goals of reducing and rejecting this behavior.
And I know you said you were disappointed when you heard this story. You saw that last night. Was that the only word that came to your head, was disappointment?
Well, profoundly disturbed by the conduct, but disappointed mainly because the process and the self-examination by the RCMP, which we all respect what the men and women do, but that self-reflection has been for a number of years now, and Commissioner Paulson has tried to take this by the horns to take ownership of it. My concern is that as recently as a year and a half, 2 years ago, there's still the investigation of these incidents not being conducted in a way that I think we all think is appropriate. That's what I was most disappointed about, was that even the investigation wasn't taken as seriously as it should be in this environment and age of zero tolerance.
Mr. Rankin, I want to bring you in. First off, I have to get everybody's reaction when they heard this story.
I go much beyond simply being disappointed. This is a very old story, and I want to put a human face on it. Real people have suffered as a result of this. This is not new. These allegations, specifically bullying and sexual touching, were made known in 2014, 2015. Precious little was done about it. They weren't taken seriously. Real lives are affected. Not the first time, not the second time. We need an independent review to address these issues within the RCMP. It's just not good enough to say we're disappointed, Mr. Paulson has to do better, etc. This is endemic. It obviously hasn't worked to date. And why is it still happening?
So you're saying, look, we've left the RCMP commissioner to handle these types of things, but you don't see that it's cleaning up?
It obviously isn't. And if the allegations are proven to be true, it seems that it's not. So therefore, we need some sort of independent mechanism. The RCMP investigating itself at the end of the day isn't accountable. It's not the way we should do business. Workplace harassment requires action of course, it's fair and balanced, but is immediate. Things have to be taken, steps need to be taken immediately when you hear about these allegations. That's not what happened here, and it's not happened in the past too often.
Mr. Picard, let me bring you in on that.
Yes.
Independent mechanism. What do you think of that? Is that part of the discussion?
Let's not diminish the event because it's unacceptable. It's a bit early to talk about independent investigation because we are talking about events involving some individuals. We're not talking about events involving the whole RCMP. I think we still need to believe in the capacity and the professionalism of our investigator at RCMP, the RCMP leadership, to provide us with what they have engaged to act upon, which is a complete and transparent investigation. I hear you when you say that we want other eyes to look at it. But let's trust the people that are working in this organization, because there are some good people working in this organization, capable of doing the right investigation, to come back to us with something clear and transparent, so we can, knowing the fact altogether, we still have some bits and pieces for now. Let's wait to get the whole story and then act properly.
Mr. Rankin,
I don't wish to suggest there's not good people. I wish to suggest it's not good enough to say there's another set of bad apples and people should be held accountable. It obviously is an institutional problem. It's a problem that requires an institutional response and some leadership. When are we going to see it? Because once again, I know people who've been harassed within the RCMP. Their lives have been wrecked. It goes on and on.
Yeah.
That's the story.
I think a middle ground that the minister could commit to very quickly is internal RCMP investigators that look into these serious allegations should be blemish-free. That should be an absolute given and something that the minister could provide direction on right away. Murray is talking about an independent body and official, but at a very...
What do you think of that?
Well, that's what some people have been advocating. Yeah. I do think the RCMP has this capability, but I think the minister needs to give direction that anybody involved in looking into these claims, to make it an environment where women mainly can come forward with some of these concerns and complaints, should know that they're going to someone that doesn't have history themselves.
So what do you think of that process?
We do share the same concerns by letting RCMP do his work, do his job properly. I think he not only he should take the chance, but this is the opportunity to do right with his own investigation, and then we'll see the proper action following whether the result is acceptable or not.
What about for those people who feel that going forward to potentially have, it's the RCMP investigating the RCMP, that they feel a little intimidated by that?
Very intimidated.
By the investigation or by the fact that going forward?
No, by going forward for the first thing, but then also you're talking to someone who's in the RCMP investigating.
Two things. I think, first of all, it will always be a challenge for any victim that we support to go forward because it's a tough issue.
So how do you make it easier for them?
On the other hand, it's still the RCMP. They have the people and capacity and expertise to dig deeper into this and to bring us and the minister the response we're looking at. So it will always be a tough challenge for anyone in any organization to come forward. But please do come forward, because we do have people that are looking at this case with the proper set of eyes.
Mr. Rankin?
Why wouldn't we say come forward to somebody who is not within the chain of command, if you will, but is an independent person, trained and sensitive to these harassment issues in the workplace, rather than going to somebody who is ultimately your boss? People in the real world understand that's not going to work. Other private sector institutions have found very effective ways to deal with harassment. Why is the RCMP somehow special?
I think two things, and I made the suggestion in a goodwill gesture, because we all want to get an environment where someone can come forward feeling it's going to be looked at. I think the minister could immediately say to the RCMP, make sure the investigators have zero history of these sorts of incidents. But second, the Public Safety Committee should look at this, or other suggestions that the NDP or the Conservatives have. Right now, the Liberals on that committee are blocking all suggestions for committee study that we've brought forward. So this would be another thing that the committee could look at. So voices like Murray's and other perspectives can be shared.
I think in all fairness, the word blocking is a bit too hard, if you allow me. I think it's a matter of having other priorities for the committee to look at and then choose what would be the first priority to work on. And I do agree that the committee have considered all proposals from the table, from the floor, and then the committee will take its decision on the subject it will want to look at first. On this specific issue, I think when someone wants to come forward, in a case, I don't know this one specifically, but in a case where the person challenged would be his boss or her boss, there are mechanisms for those people to go to someone else to make the proper complaint and have his message to the right person.
Well,
for the investigation.
let's go back to where we started. People didn't get taken seriously when they complained of sexual touching and bullying. They went forward in 2014 and 2015. They weren't taken seriously. What more evidence do we need that the system is broken?
If you consider that going on your boss and up the chain of command doesn't give you anything more, you make the allegation that everyone is in line with the behavior, which is totally untrue. Not everyone is in line with this behavior.
I don't think that's what he was saying.
No.
I think what he was saying was they brought this forward and nothing really happened in these instances, so there's concern.
Mistrust going upward in the chain of command is expressing that you don't trust the people in the chain of command. Therefore, there must be somewhere not on your side, and the fright, being scared of not being able to be heard properly, leave this doubt. And I think they have to come forward. They have to go to the chain of command because we need their information to investigate properly.
I think in the end here, what you're saying at this point, an independent mechanism is not needed.
Not at this point.
Okay. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there. Michelle Picard, Aaron O'Toole, and Murray Rankin, I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.